The route follows an approximate beeline, if a beeline can ever be approximate, from one side of England to the other. The countryside traversed is beautiful almost everywhere, yet extremely varied in character, with mountains and hills, valleys, rivers and heather moors combining in a pageant of colourful scenery. It is of great interest both topographically and geologically. Evidence is in plenty met of abandoned mineral workings dating from medieval times. You see part of the history of England on this walk.
And you'll find that history drawn in sharp outline across the 30 or so miles of the coast-to-coast walk that link Keld with the North York Moors. We began our third week together at the halfway point on the route, in the high, bleak Pennines. Ahead lay the valley of the Swale, Wainwright's favourite among these Yorkshire dales, with its distinctive barns and dry stone walls. And beyond that, Richmond, by far the largest settlement on the whole 190-mile route. Wainwright had been looking forward to this week's walking. He was intrigued by the crumbling memorials to a way of life long gone.
Well, this is a sad sight. These are the ruins of Crackpot Hall. When I first came this way, there was a roof on it, so it's gone into sad decay since then.
The whole place has been abandoned to the rabbits. It's just one complete rabbit warren underneath here now. Holes everywhere. And this was a farm, was it?
This was a farm, yes, and it's in the centre of mining activity, lead mining. And the building had to be abandoned in the 1950s because of subsidence. Cracks were appearing in the walls.
I wonder why it was called Crackpot Hall.
Don't know. There's another Crackpot Hall further down the valley. Strange name. But the situation here is glorious. You get the swale, a big curve of the River Swale.
Just imagine getting up in the morning and looking out of your living room window at that, though, eh? And which way does your route go on from here?
Up to the old Swinnergill lead mine. Then it crosses the moor to the biggest of the lead mines at Gunnerside, which I hope we'll be able to see. But we are here on the edge of the big Swaledale lead mining area, where you can still see the relics, the culverts and the mine levels, bridges. The mines contributed more to the economy of Swaledale than agriculture, I think. There's tremendous activity up here. And now it's got the silence of death about it.
Another Klondike arose in these wild hills. Thousands of men were engaged. A few struck it rich, but most toiled for little reward. There's no beauty in these sorry ruins, but a great fascination for those of imagination who can picture in their minds the scene as it was a century before.
Wainwright has always been fascinated by the clues about our past that can be gleaned from these landscapes. On earlier visits, a quarter of a century ago, he conducted a solitary exploration among the spoil heaps, levels and buildings of these lead mines. Today, though, we had the benefit of an expert guide, someone who could share Wainwright's enthusiasm for the history and the hardships of the Swaledale miners.
Now there's an old smelt mill, isn't there? Is that the Surrender?
That's the Surrender smelt mill, and the old building above it is the peat house. That's where they used to keep the fuel to fire the furnaces.
It seemed eerily appropriate that the last of the winter snows swirled round us as we discussed the fate of the men and women who once laboured in these hills. John Hardy respects not just their achievements and determination, but also mourns their passing.
The last mining in Swaledale, the last serious mining in Swaledale, was in about 1906. They finished then. In Arkengarthdale, it was a little bit later. They abandoned it in 1911.
That was because they got cheaper supplies from abroad.
That's right. There was cheap lead coming from Spain and America.
Were the deposits here worked out?
Well, there's still lead there, but of course it wasn't really economic to get it, you see. The best lead had already been taken. And the poor miners were in very, very sad straits. Very, very tragic end. The wonderful communities that had built up had to break up, and literally dozens of families left the Dale. They either went up into Durham to the coal fields there, they'd go over into Lancashire, into the cotton mills, and even more adventurous spirits found their way to the lead mines over in America. And they really were a great people, really. Of course, they've completely gone off the face of the earth, and they've taken with them all their skills.
Didn't take any redundancy money.
There was no redundancy pay, I'm afraid. They had none of the advantages that we have today. They were a very gritty people.
Anyone who wanders up the moors from the valley soon finds himself in the midst of a graphic scene of industrial decay that simply cannot be passed unnoticed. The gills, the fell sides, even the summits have been torn asunder. Shafts and levels pierce the earth like pockmarks. Petrified rivers of stone litter the steep slopes. Barren gullies make big scars in the heather. The skeletons of abandoned and derelict buildings stand gaunt and grey amid a chaos of spoil heaps. An observer of this dismal wreckage is left in no doubt that Swaledale has a long history of mining, and that this history has come to a full stop.
Well, we're looking down now on the old Gunnerside lead mines. This was really the heart of the industry.
That's right.
Now, what are these channels coming down the hillside?
Well, that's a very old form of mining. That's what they call the hushes. And what they used to do is they used to build dams at the top of the hill. And when they'd collected a sufficient amount of water, they used to release the water, and it used to rush down the hill, and it used to take off all the surface soil, and then the miners would go down and look at the rock that was exposed to see if there were any veins and find out the direction of the veins. And so that would give them a clue as to where they could go.
How far in did the levels go?
Ah, well, of course, there are literally miles of level, and in fact, they used to go, years ago, they could go all the way through the Sir Francis mine, which comes up underneath here, right under that hill there, and come out at Arkengarthdale.
Really?
And I reckon that was about 6 miles.
What were the miners like?
Well, they were real characters, of course. Unfortunately, they had a rather short lifespan, I'm afraid, around about 47 years, tragically, which meant to say that many young men were dying in their 30s, I'm afraid. The conditions under which they laboured were deplorable. And in the heyday, there would be anything up to 4,000 men working, but then, of course, then there would be the women and children. Young lads would go underground at around about 10, and the women and the children were working at the dressing floors, breaking up the ore and so on. You'd see the tubs coming out and them tipping the spoil over. You would see the odd miners coming along, of course. See the horses coming along. The carts would be coming up here, depending upon what period you're talking about. If it was very much earlier, you'd probably find pack horses coming along and so on.
Sledges.
That's right, yes.
Oh, well, this is an essential part of Swaledale's history. I'm glad that some memories of it are being preserved. After the desolation of the lead mines, it's pleasant to come to this little civilized oasis. And this is Reeth, which considered itself to be the capital of Upper Swaledale. It's well supplied with hotels, boarding houses, and there's almost a compulsory halt for people doing the coast-to-coast walk.
Because the next place is presumably Richmond.
Richmond is the next place, yeah.
Yes, it's a neat little place, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's all we need to say about Reeth.
I wonder what this weather's going to do today.
I don't know. It was very pleasant coming.
There are some little spots of blue sky about, but
Yeah.
No, Wainwright's never one for wasting time, especially when we still had nearly half the walk before us. And if Upper Swaledale's a study in dramatic light and shade, we now walked into a more gentle landscape. The tourist charms of Richmond were beckoning, but the approach to it had an appeal that AW was determined we shouldn't overlook. Avoiding the roads, he'd found a route through the haven of Whitcliffe Wood.
right. You all right on there?
Yeah.
There's a chunk of concrete down here to stand on. There we go. Right. Yeah, I see what you mean. Fine old mature wood, isn't it?
Yeah.
Amazing range of species, too. Wood that hasn't been mucked about with.
No, it doesn't. This is a beautiful wood. It's natural. Got ground cover, primroses, dog mercury, bluebells, and in the trees are squirrels.
And how far does this go on, this woodland part of the walk?
It'll be a couple of miles. And then you're into the suburbs of Richmond. And it's a welcome sight, especially if you're in need of a replenishment of supplies. You can get anything you want there. It is your last chance, really, before you come to the North Sea, of stocking up your rucksack. The first sight of Richmond is thrilling. You've got the keep of the Norman castle in the middle of a lot of buildings. And just a bit below eye level, with a swale running alongside.
Richmond is a town unlike others, steeped in a long history that still lingers in the ramifications of its castle and the narrow alleys and quaint buildings that huddle in the shelter of the massive Norman keep. The castle is the dominating feature, but hardly less impressive is the large cobbled marketplace with the ancient Church of the Holy Trinity, or the fine tower standing amid the ruins of a friary. It is a town of reminders of times long past. It's too good to be passed by.
It's been a year or two since you were here last, is it?
Well,
In the castle?
15 years since.
It's one thing the English are very good at, looking after old buildings, isn't it? They do it really well.
People could build better 1,000 years ago than they can today.
Two, please.
220, please.
Thank you very much. Have you got a guidebook as well?
Yes, we have. We've either got a card or a book. A 70p book.
Oh, give me the book.
Right, thank you.
There we go.
Right, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
When you think of the man-hours it must have taken to put this place together.
Yeah.
And everywhere you look, there's little signs of rooms and passageways up in the walls.
Should be a parade ground mostly, wouldn't it?
You wonder why they actually built a castle as grand as this here, though. I mean, what on earth is it defending? A lot of moorland and Swaledale.
That's right, yeah.
Magical place, isn't it?
Yeah. And of course, its great pride is the keep of the Norman castle, which has been preserved intact. And it's not a stone out of place. It may have been restored since, but it's remarkable that that was built in 1071. The other castle buildings have gone, but it's still surrounded by a perimeter wall. Now, all around the walls is a splendid pedestrian walkway. And you're looking down on the swale.
The reason it survived was because it was a place of so little importance in history.
It was never involved in any sieges or battles.
The odd Scots invasion, perhaps. Of course, this is the only town that we go through, apart from Kirby Stephen.
There's Kirby Stephen, Richmond. Richmond is much bigger. But everybody stays overnight at Richmond. You can buy anything here. Or hotels, boarding houses. And it's a place you're always sorry to leave. You keep looking back when you've left Richmond and looking back. No, it's a nice place.
But you're obviously very fond of Richmond.
I always have been. Always liked to come to Richmond. It's a place quite different from any other. Apart from the beauty of the gardens along the riverbank, I remember something I'd never seen before, and those are dog toilets. Little poles stuck up with a lamp on top and a little surround. And that's where dogs are required to go. This is St. Mary's Church at Bolton-le-Swale. There's something in the churchyard here I would like you particularly to see.
This obelisk, is it, that we're going
Yes, that's it.
This monument was erected by contribution in the year 1743 to the memory of Henry Jenkins.
Who lived to be 169 years old.
169?
That's remarkable, isn't it?
Well, I wonder if there's any more information about it. Should we have a
There's
look
some more in the church,
Is
yes.
there?
I'll give you the dates there.
There's a visitor's book here. Coast to coast walkers have beaten us to it.
They've been here before us, haven't
They
they?
have. Dr. Bennett is doing the coast to coast walk in aid of Ripon Cathedral Trust. Pray for my successful conclusion. Outbound to St. Bees. So you even got a mention here, somebody called Simons. Also on the coast to coast walk, Wainwright has put your lovely church on the map. So I think the least you can do is sign their visitor's book, isn't it?
Yes, okay.
There's a
Do
pen
that.
here. There you go.
Where is it here?
That's right. Just across there, yeah. Lovely sound of crows. They're nesting in a tree over there.
That's all right,
That's perfect.
is it?
Perfect.
Oh, I've lost it.
Yeah, you have your specs.
Now, what about this man who's 169? Let's find out where...
Well, hang on.
Right.
Obviously, so many people have pestered the vicar for information. He's left the notes out. He was born in 1500 and followed the occupation of fishing for 140 years. It's said that when he was more than 100 years old, he used to swim across the River Swale with the greatest of ease and without catching cold. There was some doubt about about his age. Having been born 39 years before parish registers were kept, a judge once asked him what memorable battle or event had happened in his memory, to which he answered that when the Battle of Flodden Field was fought, where the Scots were beat with the death of their king, he was about 13 years of age. Incredible.
Does it give the year of his death?
Yeah, he was buried in Bolton Churchyard on December the 6th, 1670.
At the age of 169.
169.
And that was before there was a welfare state.
And you're only halfway there, you know?
Yes, yeah.
Not quite halfway.
If A.W. wasn't already embarrassed by these comparisons with a 169-year-old achiever, he certainly would be for the next mile or two, because this stage of the journey just isn't up to his usual standard. Despite all efforts to find a suitable footpath, A.W. had to accept defeat and confine all coast-to-coast walkers firmly to the road.
Now, this is the section we haven't been looking forward to.
No, this is the least attractive section, at least to anybody like me who likes to have hills in the landscape. Here it's as flat as can be. It's the extension, really, of the Vale of York. But although I tried to get onto one or two paths alongside, they were obstructed or blocked by cows or something of the sort. So the best thing was to keep plodding on.
It's round about this stage you get to look like that little man that you drew in your book, is it? The poor little drooping character.
Plodding along, left to right and left to right. At the end of the road is a little hamlet village called Danby Wisk. That was a name that appealed to me. I thought, surely I can get some refreshment there because there's absolutely nothing along these 8 miles. But as I say, when I got there, it was a disappointment because all I could get was a bag of crisps.
We seem to have attracted a friend, A.W. Come on, come on, come on, good dog, good dog, yes. Yeah. Well, this one makes friends with a number of coast-to-coast walkers as they come this way.
Yeah.
It obviously knows we're going on. It's amazing how little traffic we've seen.
Very little.
Having said that, we're about to have a traffic jam, I think. Did you notice the little joke that the Yorkshire County Council road planners have done on us as we're coming past there?
No.
And they've obviously read your book as well about how boring this is. Because just up there, there's a sign saying Danby Wisk 1 mile. And that signpost there says Danby Wisk 2 miles.
To walkers whose liking is for high places and rough terrain, this will seem the dullest part of the whole walk. Those who believe the earth is flat will be mightily encouraged on this section. The scenery is 100% rural and all is tidily and pleasantly arranged, but views are restricted to the road and the fields adjoining. Tedium grows apace, and one plods onwards mechanically, head down, thinking nostalgically of places left behind. There's nothing to see. You feel out of place.
Well, we've arrived at Danby Wisk at last, after that awful slog along the road. And we're in the bar of the White Swan. And I must say that I owe the place an apology, because when I came, there was a surly landlord who would give me nothing but a bag of crisps. And now it's completely altered.
Oh, well, you see.
New management, sophisticated jukeboxes.
Beef burgers in buns.
Yes.
Old peculiar casseroles.
Yes, you get anything now.
Well, enjoy your lunch. You deserve it after that walk along those roads.
This is the lowest part of the walk between the two coasts. We're only 110 feet above sea level here. Very soon we'll be engaged on the North York Moors on the last stage. An interesting site about a mile further on. It's the site of the Battle of the Standards.
What was that?
The English beat the Scots in 1138.
Now, as a Scotsman, we're not going to have to fall out about this, are we?
No. Nowadays, of course, they do the battles at Hampden Park and Wembley every year. But the English were playing at home then, and they won that match.
Been looking through the some of their visitors' books. Obviously, all the coast-to-coast walkers fill them in. And even early on, when it was 1984, somebody obviously didn't agree with you about the pub here. Wainwright, Wain wrong. The White Swan is right on, Wainwright is wrong, they say there. Lovely comments. A lot of them do obviously change their routes back and forward, you know, decide to go the other way from you. The walk to Robin Hood's Bay for an ice cream wasn't bad. It's the walk back to the car at St. Bees that's killing. Another one, correction to Wainwright, page 116 to 118. Danby Whisk White Swan provides excellent food and accommodation.
Got anybody in before us today?
Well, we've already been beaten in by two coast-to-coasters this morning. A couple from North Yorkshire.
Not the first today.
No. Wainwright should come here now, it says. I think you better put some response to that in here, W.
Right, yes, I'll do that. Right, what did you suggest? He did.